out there. If you are, please let us know. Just bring up this particular information here. Just if you haven't already gone to like Andrea's Facebook page, please do so. Okay, we're starting to get a couple of people in here. Hello, is anybody there? We're starting soon. If you'd like to chat in the chat room to the right of the screen, let us know that you are here. Sounds like an investigation already.
If you're here, knock once.
Yeah.
If you're not here, knock twice.
Cool. So if anyone wants to use the chat room, hopefully it is live and usable on the right hand side. There, I will start by saying hello. Hello. Ben, no one is here, just us spirits. Fabulous. Thank you, Ben. Awesome. So wait another minute just for a couple of other people that have shown some interest with regards to this fantastic talk topic. Rather a bit of a mix and a bit of, well, controversial, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we like controversial, don't
yeah, why not throw that into the mix? Often investigating and mediumship is very separate, so this is something that's a little bit different, a little left of field. Hurrah! More people. Excellent. Fantastic. Cool. Brilliant. Good. Awesome. So yes, we are here. It's Andrea Caldy and Beth Luskin here. Andrea Caldy, the paranormal medium. Andrea's had many, many years experience as an investigator, but also in that time has developed and become a very well-known paranormal medium, as probably the paranormal medium in the paranormal field. So this particular presentation is what Andrea is going to be able to do for us this evening, and we'll be able to go into a little bit more. And you know, can someone be a paranormal investigator and a medium in one? You know, for me, for a couple of years ago, I would have said no, definitely not, absolutely not. You can only be one or the other. But I think in recent times, I'm starting to change a little bit on that. I think, as Andrea will explain a bit more, you actually need to know how medium works in order to be able to work with them as a very effective tool in the paranormal kit. So I will hand it over to Mrs. Caldy, and to talk more about being an investigator and a medium. Can it be possible if it's all in one?
Thank you, Beth, and welcome to this webinar, everybody. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. This is something that I've been conflicted with for a long time, and I didn't think that I would ever resolve this, and that being, you know, whether you can be an investigator and a medium all in one. And I thought that I had to choose whether I wanted to be one or the other, or whether I could be one or the other. So for a couple of years, I've been kind of sitting on the fence with it, but I realized that one was not exclusive of the other. And basically that's when a whole other world opened up for me. So for those of you who don't know me, let me talk a little bit about who I am, where I come from, apart from the country of Hungary, of course. I've started my psychic development in 2006 and sat in a circle with different teachers for a while, and that's pretty much when my paranormal investigation, research and hands-on experience really started. They were kind of going hand in hand, so you can see how the conflict was there from the very beginning. But after a while, I decided that I was more interested in working within the paranormal as a medium than doing your stock standard mediumship. So I started investigating with Attila and other groups and people. And during those years, which is still going on, during those years, I've gained a lot of experience with working investigators, and the best times, the most challenging times were as well when I was asked questions that I couldn't really answer about mediumship, and those questions came from investigators. They wanted to know how things work. So I knew that there was a big gap in mediumship between what a conventional concept of mediumship was out there and what use for mediumship in the paranormal was. So yeah, so I've come up with a couple of talking points that I wanted to talk to you all about tonight. So we'll get straight into it.
Yeah,
Beth. What do you think?
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. So mediumship as I mentioned before, I think there is a distinct difference between conventional stage mediumship, which is what you see basically your platform mediumship when you go to a spiritualist church, or things or people that like John Edward, for example, do, or Lisa Williams. You know, they go on a stage and they do readings for people, or do psychic fairs. You know, you do your one-on-one readings and things like that. And I basically realized that a lot of the skills that are needed from a medium in the paranormal aren't really present with someone who only has that sort of experience with mediumship. So this is where I decided that it was a good opportunity to bring some new skills to the field, and I started working with investigators hands-on, basically to teach them about mediumship, and also to give them a forum where they can voice their experiences with someone who understands, you know, which was me, because very often I found that within the field it wasn't really accepted or encouraged for investigators to have, and especially share, experiences that were considered to be mediumistic. So, as I said, I've spoken to a lot of investigators, and that just reaffirmed my belief, and a belief in the fact that yes, you can be an investigator and a medium all in the same package, basically, because one is not exclusive of the other. Okay, so who are mediums? There is a conventionally accepted definition of who mediums are and what they do, and that's basically people who have the ability to communicate with spirits, people who have passed on to the other side, you know, depending on how your belief system is. But is that really the case? Is that all that mediums do? I believe that everyone is a medium, essentially. And why do I believe that? I'll tell you a little bit later. I will leave you hanging just for a little while. Okay, so a medium's job is to communicate with the souls of the people who have departed. Okay, what do paranormal investigators do? Most of them, they try to get some sort of a communication from the other side. Okay, the only difference is that they use instruments such as digital recording devices, or EMF meters, or voice recorders, cameras, things like that. So communication isn't always verbal. It can be via other means. So I believe that what paranormal investigators are trying to do is that they're basically trying to be mediums to get messages from the other side. So this is where I think the conventionally accepted definition of a medium needs to change, especially if you're in the paranormal. Now this is where we get to the good stuff. Okay, so over the years that I've been talking to investigators, I've basically listed or recognized that there are common experiences, either a combination of what we're going to talk about in this slide, or just, you know, elements of experiences here and there, but they are common to almost all investigators. And that kind of got me thinking, you know, is that something that develops with investigators over time? So does it mean that the longer you are in the field, the more likely you are to have one of these experiences? I've worked with people from the time that they got into the field, you know, and then they've been in it for a couple of years, and the more they investigated, the more these experiences started happening with them. So is it that they somehow attract these experiences, or are they just more aware of what is happening with them? I think when you're an investigator, you're a naturally curious person, and your sensitivity heightens. And I'm not talking about your psychic senses, I'm talking about your normal senses, like your seeing, your hearing, your touching. When you're sitting in a dark room for hours on end with nothing but your recording device and asking questions, and you're just sitting in the dark, you're waiting for that response. You're listening out to knocks and bangs and just generally phenomena that might be happening around you. So that will naturally enhance your senses, your physical senses. I'm also a believer that for you to enhance your psychic senses, you have to enhance your physical senses. So maybe it's a natural consequence of your normal senses being heightened that investigators start picking up things psychically. So let's have a look at some of the most common experiences that I found with investigators. I'm just going to hold that for a little bit. Okay, no, actually, no, let's go on. Okay, so one of the most often reported experiences come from team members. That it's not actually the investigator that is being affected that reports the activity or that they are being affected, it's their team members. And they talk about things like, I went to see what he was doing, and he was just standing in the room, in the middle of the room, and he wasn't really responding to when I was talking to him, for example. And that's what I call being despondent, is when how they describe it is that they're being in a different reality. It's almost like being in the same room, but at a different time. They might even see things and hear things, but they sort of switch off their outside awareness, so their head is not really in the investigation, because they're not aware of what is going on around them anymore. So people can be talking to them, and they won't be responding, or they won't be responding as swiftly as they normally do. Another good indicator is when someone is acting out of character. A very good example of that was when we were investigating Bonnie Springs Ranch, for example, in Las Vegas, or just outside of Las Vegas. This was in 2013, and one of the team that hosted us, this was a senior member of the team, he actually fell in some sort of a trance, and he walked into the ladies' bathroom, and then he walked in there, and he kind of got a bit disorientated. He didn't know where it was, because he was a male, you know, what was he doing in the ladies' bathroom? So that was completely out of character for him. And when he came out, he was very quiet and almost ladylike, yes, in behaviour. Yeah. So that was completely out of character for him. But on the other hand, you know, there's the other side of this, when someone goes into a kind of mood that's more aggressive, that's really not something that their personality is like normally. So that's another thing to look out for. You know, and everything in between, basically. This is where it comes very handy to know the people that you're investigating with, that you know them well, you know their moods, their character, what they do in certain situations. So knowing your team members is very important, because this is where you are going to notice these changes in character. Now, if you're, for example, in a tour group, you're not investigating with your own team, or if you don't have a team, you know, you're in a tour group, and you notice that someone that you're with is acting a bit out of character, thing that is worth taking notice of. And let's face it, I don't know all the people that will go to a ghost tour on their own. They usually go with mates, you know. So make sure that you look after your mates and just keep an eye on how they're behaving. Okay, confusion is another thing, and it kind of goes with the first 2 points, being despondent and acting out of character. Confusion is something that may not be picked up until much later. You know, like the person would be walking around and not wanting to go into a particular room or through a particular door, but there is no door there, but they know that they want to go through it. You know, or things like they want to put something away and they put it away in the wrong place. You know, so that's, again, know the people that you're investigating with. Okay. Now, lost time is something that has intrigued me for a long time, and I'm not just talking about the Bermuda Triangle, or you know, when you're daydreaming in the middle of the day. I'm talking about experiences with investigators where they remember doing something, and the next thing they know is they are somewhere else at a different location doing something else, and they don't have an idea what has happened in between. So this is something that's happened a couple of times during investigations, and actually one investigator contacted me particularly concerned after a particular event occurred, and he was concerned, you know, was saying, I don't know what I've been up to. I've lost about 10-15 minutes, maybe even longer. You know, why does this happen? You know, have I been abducted by aliens? Yeah, that kind of stuff, which is a whole other can of worms, people. So we're not going to get into that. That's really not my specialty. You'll have to ask Attila about that next time you see him. So yeah, that's something to also take a note of. Okay, what else have we got there? We have spatial disorientation, which is a little bit similar to confusion, but this is something that that happens when, for example, a place or a particular location has gone through renovations, for example, or a building or a structure has been on the site and it has been cleared off and a new structure has been built. Sometimes people would want to follow the blueprint or the floor print of the old structure, and are looking for a particular room or a particular place within the structure, and they can't find it, and that can cause some disorientation. Now, we also have some physical signs that are happening with the body when you have possible spirit contact, and some of those are dizziness and nausea. This is something that mediums and even psychics come across on a regular basis. My theory is, and it's only just a theory, is that because there is a melding of energies. Like your own physical energy is melding with spirit energy. That's kind of like a side effect on the body. So I wouldn't call it anything negative or anything malicious. I think it's just a side effect of spirit contact. So if anyone that you're investigating with complains about dizziness and nausea, of course, make sure that there are no obvious physical reasons such as, illness, food poisoning, just go for the obvious signs, diabetes, for example, or it could even be an overloading of caffeine and sugar, which is, staple diet of paranormal investigators. What will you find in a paranormal investigator's lunch bag? We shouldn't even call it lunch bag, should we? Because it's not really during the day. Yes, I am a mum. But yeah, what will you find? You will find Oreos, Tim Tams, and jelly snakes. Okay, so if you look at what's in those things, it's quite easy to get dizzy and nauseous just from the sugar overload, even if you're not a diabetic. But it can also refer to spirit contact. Okay. Now, compulsion to act a certain way or do a certain thing. I've had an experience at one of the investigations that I was at a few years ago with another team, where this was in a factory kind of area set up, where the building was turned into something else. And there was a particular area where they had an industrial accident years and years ago, and I felt the compulsion to go a certain way. I couldn't, because the area was blocked off with grills and bars and all that kind of stuff. But I just felt like I wanted to break through that barrier and go to a certain place within that building. And the compulsion was such that, luckily enough, there was video surveillance in the area. So the other investigators have come and got me out of the building just to ground myself a little bit. This was before I had much experience with this sort of stuff. And I've seen other people in the same situation in other investigations. So this is only a concern if the area that person wants to go to is unsafe, or the route to that area is unsafe. If there is a safe way to get there, I say encourage, and accompany them to see where that particular contact goes. And we have repetitive and compulsive behavior. This is a little bit similar to what I spoke about before, the compulsion. But the repetitive behavior is when you just want to do the same action. You want to do the same action over and over again. Like, for example, it could be maybe that they are picking up on a residual energy of a particular act, and they just want to do it over and over and over. Now, for a medium, we know that means that, something happened. We pick up the information, we unpack the information as much as we can, and then we move on to the next piece of information. Whereas for an investigator, because they won't necessarily understand what is going on, they may just be stuck in that sort of loop and not knowing why. They just feel the compulsion that they need to do something. And another physical sign is fainting. Now, I have seen grown men faint and collapse at investigations. I would like to say that it was from manly hunger, and they would probably like to say that too, but maybe in some cases it was, but other cases it wasn't really. So it's just another level from the dizziness and the nausea. If the dizziness and the nausea go unchecked, it may develop into fainting because the energy might be too much. But again, this is another physical sign, so we have to make sure that there are no actual physical causes that may cause the fainting, such as low blood pressure or any illnesses and things like that.
Or you could faint because of Zach Bagans, which is what Ross has mentioned.
Is that so, Ross? Is that true? Yeah. You know what? I probably wouldn't be far behind you. Don't tell Attila though, okay? Yeah. No, I think fainting that doesn't occur a lot. But look, if that particular person walked onto an investigation that we were doing. No guarantees, no guarantees. Yeah. So these are just some of the most common signs of possible spirit contact that an investigator might have during an investigation. And if you look at the list, there is no point on this list that says a spirit guide will appear in front of you, or you will be spoken to by an angel, or you will feel a spirit hand taking your hand, okay? Because these are the signs that are most obvious, and these are the signs that investigators will be able to pick up and actually verify. Yes, I was acting out of character. And yes, I did have lost time. Yes, I did feel a compulsion to act a certain way. Whereas with the other ones, apparitions and, spirit hands and all that, it's really, really hard because it's a very personal experience. So you can't really prove it outwardly that that's what happened. And you can't really prove it with whatever is on this list. You can't really prove that was a definite spirit contact or spirit experience. And this is why I put in the subtitle, possible spirit contact experience. Now, in the next slide, here we go. What day? 13th of February. Yeah.
What is? Oh yes. Oh yes.
What is?
I have no idea what I'm doing that day. Can't access Arvos. Yes. So I have a moment of amnesia. I might be a spirit nearby me. I'm disorientated.
You're not fainting?
No.
Oh, yeah,
give me a second.
That's good. I think I just had some lost time. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I have a talk coming up at Access Arvo on the 13th of February, which is where I'm going to be expanding on this talk even further and talk about things like what other explanations there are for all of the above, because there are other explanations. And as investigators, we need to take everything into consideration. From a mediumistic perspective, it's something that I can say, okay, consider this from a spiritual side, or from an energetic point of view, consider this. But I'm expecting investigators to have loads of questions about what's been happening, and question themselves mainly, because this is what we do. Do not accept anything at face value at these investigations, because as much as it might be the Bermuda Triangle, we still need to ask critical questions. Okay. So I will also be talking about how you know if someone may be under the influence of spirit, or how you know if they might be faking it. Okay, because that has happened before as well. This is there are two sides to that. There could be someone who is not aware that they just got caught up in the atmosphere of the investigation, or there's the other side of it where the person is basically putting it on and faking a spirit contact. So how can you tell which one, if at all, is happening? I think that's very important for investigators. You don't want to get caught up in someone's drama and investigate a spirit contact that is really not there. Okay, I will also be talking about methods to walk a person through an experience, basically. So you had a spirit contact, or you think you might have had a spirit contact and things have been happening, but what is it? What do you do then? You know, how do you make the most out of it if you want to? You know, this is where you need to know, especially if you're with a bunch of people, you need to know who's comfortable with this sort of thing and who isn't. There are some people who want to go to investigations, you know, sit there a little bit, have a bit of fun, but don't really want to get close to spirit because it freaks them out. But there are some people who just go, yeah, bring it on, you know, give it to me, let me have an experience of a lifetime, you know, and they really want to get into it. So it's important to know who wants what, because if somebody wants to make the most of the experience, then it's always good to have a safe way to walk them through it as an investigator or as a medium. That way they can share their experience they can share that experience later. And what I mean about walk them through an experience without interfering or front-loading, that's basically a way to let them have their own experience without anyone else putting anything into it. So no suggestions or leading questions and things like that. I think that's very important because that will just taint the experience. So we want the experience as clean as possible. And of course, I'm going to talk about what not to do, because there are lots and lots of things that are out there about how spirit contact should be and what investigators should do and all that. And I think, you know, the internet is a vast space and there's a lot of good information out there about a lot of good stuff, but there's also a lot of rubbish out there as well. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. So I'll talk about what to do and what not to do in a very common sense way that all investigators can understand, and about tools that anyone can basically use. You don't need any particular religious education. Yes, I'm talking about demonology, for example. So just common sense stuff that you can and shouldn't do, things like that.
Cool. So
yeah, I'm looking to seeing you all at the talk.
Yes. Is this the talk you're going to be doing in Adelaide at all? Possibly. Not sure.
No, Adelaide is going to be about paranormal mediumship. So it's a little bit more about the evolution of paranormal mediumship and the distinction between that and normal mediumship. Maybe we'll put a little bit of this into it as well.
So anyone who's based in Adelaide, that's Paracon Australia Road Trip, which is happening next month with Ben Hansen. If you haven't got your tickets, Andrea will also be there as well to be able to explore this topic a little bit on one side and a bit more on the other. Now, does anybody, if you haven't been living under a particular rock, this is, you may have seen Andrea's image of her Facebook page is on the right-hand side as well. Also, if you are interested in heading over to the Access Arvos as well, there are a couple of tickets still available for that. Here you can find on the link, it's just coming up now. If you want to get there, that's the link to click to be able to make sure you secure your spot to head over. It's only $30 and you get to meet other people and you get to hear more about this really fascinating topic. Yes. Now, has anybody got any questions at all for Andrea? This is the fun part where it's quiet. Anything regarding information that she's spoken about this evening? Oh, Ross says, miss you, Andrea.
We'll see you soon, Roz.
There's always a delay.
I usually encourage people to ask whatever questions they want to ask.
Yeah.
There is no limit, basically.
Nothing. You do need to go to bed at some point.
Yes, we do. And anyone who wants a private consultation, there is an opportunity right now if you want to sign up to my mailing list. Basically, you can do it through my Facebook page through the sign up button. So there is an opportunity to book a private consultation with me, completely free. We'll Skype for half an hour, talk about whatever concerns you might have regarding any spirit contact or investigations or mediumships or whatever you pick the topic.
Sounds great. Yes.
Overloaded everybody with information.
Sounds good, thorough, good information. And as I said, as investigators, it's not something that is traditionally embraced. Something that's actually there are some investigators and teams who choose not to use mediums in any capacity and purely just have a very sort of more of a scientific / research angle. So I think it's, there's many shades of grey, and I think this is a great shade of grey.
There is, absolutely.
Ross has a question. When do you know to take a person outside to bring them back?
Okay. What I do is normally, it looks a little bit weird from the outside. I look at the person's eyes. I look at the person's eyes, and their pupils are back to the normal size. They respond to flashlight. They can talk to me coherently in a normal speed, in a normal tone of voice that they normally talk. So, but if a person had to be taken outside, just sit with them for a while. Don't hasten back. So yeah, to me it's all in the eyes. All in the eyes, yes.
Great question, Roz. If anyone else doesn't have any other questions, we will wrap it up. As I said, feel free to contact Andrea regarding this free consultation for half an hour. It's not a reading.
Yes. You're not going to be getting a reading.
Am I going to win Lotto? No. So yes, feel free to contact her via her Facebook page if you haven't already gone and given it a like, to keep up to date about what's happening with Andrea and the paranormal medium herself. So, and also if you wish to also attend Access Arthos.
Yes.
So thank you everybody for coming and chilling out and having a great session with us.
It was awesome.
And thank you, Andrea, for your
You're most welcome.
Well.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And there will be another webinar next month, topic TBA. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Good night.